Hello, and welcome back to Movie Theater Explorer. This is Brent, your Movie Theater Explorer here. Again, to talk about some of the recent movies that I've seen both in theaters and as well as in my home theater. Thank you again, as always, for coming in and checking these episodes out. Whether you've been following from the start or even just coming in, just exploring out of curiosity. I appreciate you coming in just even for a little bit of time or for the whole episode. But anyway, if you like what you hearing, please subscribe and we'll go ahead and get started. First thing, I'm going to focus on the movies that I have seen in theaters the last couple weeks. Um, I think I talked to you. Yeah, I did talk to you guys recently how I saw Pirates of the Caribbean, um, Curse of the Black Pearl in theaters a couple weeks ago, and actually, my local theater was playing the whole trilogy like over a few weeks, and um, so the first one I'm going to focus on is Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest. Um, and this was great to experience in the movie theater. For those that don't know, this was the sequel to Pirates of the Caribbean, and what they did was the director wanted to do a two-parter, basically make it a trilogy. Which the first one he released in the summer of 2006, and the second part, which he released in the summer of 2007, and I don't know if these were shot back to back or if they were just shot very close to one another. They were released under a year apart. Um, Not to the same length of something like Back to the Future Part 2 and 3, where they were both released like 6 months apart. These ones were, I think Dead Man's Chest was released beginning of July, is what I want to say. I don't really know the date though. Um, I do remember the date though for Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, which is the third one, and that was released in at the end of May of 2007. So, uh, my guess is I think they probably were pretty much for the most part shot back to back, but I don't really know that for sure. Um, but yeah, basically, um, I did share my thoughts when I watched it. This is one, so I'm focusing on Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest. I did also watch it World's End. I'll get to that in a bit. But Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest. Um, so basically, is it? I don't know how long it takes place after the first movie. Um, Obviously, it's released a few years later. But anyway, so this is one of those, like when I first saw it, I was like a little confused what was going on. Like, I mean, all the adventure aspects that were there were definitely great. Um, it's definitely a lot more elaborate than the first one was. I think the first one, like, it still had an epic story, but still felt contained. This one took the epic level to a whole nother level. And obviously, the idea of Davy Jones, where Captain Jack Sparrow struck a deal with Davy Jones, and so he needed to settle that debt. And so, um, obviously, it's one of those I have to sit there and like pay attention to the dialogue a bit more than I did the first one. The first one, I mean, I think was a bit easier to understand. This one takes a little bit more patience to understand, but at the same time, it feels like one that you can just totally go in and just have a complete blast with. And the group I was with, or the people I was with in the theater, seemed like they just had a total blast watching this one. And yeah, it was like, yeah, we were just laughing at various parts at the right moments, and definitely the characters are all, yeah, definitely a lot of fun. The one thing that I continue to be impressed with is the visual effects in this movie. Like the CG characters, like Davy Jones, look really good still, even to this day. Um, and In the performance was definitely captured very well. Like done like motion capture, and they would put the character on, and in the actor that they chose, like he brought that character to life very well. So, and again, I was definitely very like just experiencing a movie theater is great with all like with the sound effects and everything going off and all that. This was like I would say this was a decent sized theater. Definitely one of the smaller ones in the theater that I went to. So like it was not one of their biggest theaters. It was definitely more one of their medium to small, and this is the same one I experienced Curse of the Black Pearl recently. So and it, and yeah, the experience is great. Just seeing all the visuals on the big screen as was, and even just seeing some of the choreography from a lot of the sword fights. Like something that did impress me watching it was watching the sword fight between Jack Sparrow, uh, Will Turner, and what's the third guy's name? Norrington, I think. Um, and just watching their fights like back and forth while they're trying to snatch the key between one another, and just it's just trying to keep that all like it does go a bit long, but just them trying to coordinate all that I think was definitely very impressive, and just how just how everyone tried to get on top of one another, and that sense of piracy between one another. Those that obviously Jack Sparrow, a complete pirate, Will Turner, the son of a pirate, basically starts taking on that role, and then you got other ones that don't see themselves as such, but somehow grow into it. Um, so yeah, I still really enjoy Dead Man's Chest, and I'm just a week later. I'm just going to jump ahead and just talk about a week later. I saw Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, and yeah, I did not see Dead Man's Chest back in 2006, but I did see Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End in 2007, and it was definitely like again, this one fits under like definitely a lot of dialogue that you have to sit there really paying attention to what's all going on. This is like noticing this time around for at World's End is how there's like a sense of like every pirate trying to make deals with one another, um, trying to fulfill their various goals and everything, and trying to keep in touch. Like, okay, obviously, like we kind of know what these guys' goals are, why they're doing it, and maybe some are a little bit uncertain, but still at the same time, you kind of get the idea of what the main purpose on each of these characters, and just watching it all unfold. And it definitely gets very chaotic, and it's definitely a lot of craziness going on. And again, has a lot of crazy fun characters, and again the CGI for like Davy Jones, who's back as the main villain, is still great. Well, he's actually one of the big main villains. There's also another one that you've seen it, you kind of know what I mean by that. And so yeah, definitely like um I think this one had like a lot of absurd moments, like the moment with Jack Sparrow being in Davy Jones' locker, and just that whole moment's definitely really bizarre and still bizarre to this day. Um, Definitely a good few action set pieces. Definitely the one that's the most impressive is the big action sequence at the end of the movie. Um, uh, it is definitely like just like it's still really cool. Definitely quite a bit you're trying to keep in track on like what's going on, but um, there's a quote in the movie, and I'm gonna butcher it. But how the guy's like, does he actually plan this all like for referring to Jack Sparrow? I was like, does he plan this all ahead? or does he make it up as he goes? And again, I kind of ask myself that because there's certain moments I'm like, I think he's trying to figure it all out, but I also think he kind of has a bit more going on. Like the moment when he's fighting, spoiler alert, but when he's fighting Davy Jones near the end of the movie, and talking about the key, and Davy Jones is going like, "You don't have the key, I do." And Jack Sparrow's like, "Oh, that key," and then right then and there, he basically just slices off the tentacle just to get it off. And I'm like, I think he kind of knows what does at parts. Like you kind of know, like he is thinking quite a few steps ahead. That's definitely very clear in the first one. I think it's somewhat clear in the second one and the third one. Again, the second and third one are basically made back and forth. So, um, again, the theater going experience for this was great. Um, definitely a lot of good humorous moments where I'm laughing pretty hard. Um, and this is like the score is done by Hans Zimmer, and this is the one that actually features some of my favorite themes of his in the whole series. Um, I'll have to one day think through, like, because I was sitting there, like, when I finished, I'm like, which of all of Hans Zimmer scores do I consider my favorite of his? I mean, there's ones that are definitely way up there in my top five, and I have to sit there and think through about that one day. But anyway, but the again, the music here, I really like the music here. Um, and again, the fight sequences are great, and that final battle at the end is great, and just again, great visuals and all that. So again, I it is one of those like you can watch the first one on its own and just enjoy it for what it is. If you watch the second one, I feel like you do need to watch the third one, as the second and third one are, I mean, they are somewhat separate stories, but they are basically connected as two parts of one whole. So, and I enjoy that one quite a bit. So, again, I think if I were to rank the movies, I would say obviously the first one's easily my favorite. The next one would be the third one, and then the second one. Um, so yeah, those are my experiences with the Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, but also Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. Um, the next one I want to talk about is All Quiet on the Western Front. This was so there are different versions of the story. The one I'm going to be talking about is the one from 1930, and so this is one of the older movies that is made, and I believe this is the third Best Picture winner ever at the Academy Awards when they started. Um, the first one ever was Wings, and then there was one other which um, the name of that movie escapes me right now. But then the third one is All Quiet on the Western Front, which won for 19. The movie was released in 1930. Um, and so I have a nearby movie theater that isn't too far from me, or it's basically what it is. It's like a theater that they converted into a movie theater, basically. So it's not as fancy as certain ones or as sophisticated, but I was able to experience this movie in a theater as is, and and this was one that I've heard about. I kind of was curious about, so I decided to check it out. And so basically, it's about it takes place during World War One. Basically, focuses on a bunch of young men that basically enlist to fight in the war, and just their experiences with it. And there's definitely like the way I would describe it is unnerving. Um, Obviously, like there are moments like you can tell like the performance parts of where it's captured and all that, but then there's certain moments when the battles are captured somehow, just how it's captured, how it's presented, and it's probably because of the age. And there's also that sense of this is actually pretty close to the events of World War One. Again, World War One took place between 1914 to 1918, and this was released about 12 years after the end of the World War One. And so, basically, um, a lot some of those battle sequences, just like you're hearing the gunshots going off and everything, and just like the fighting going on, and it's just present through these battles, even if it's like in the distance while they're hiding in one spot, and then going into the trenches just to get ready to fight, and just seeing people starting, the soldiers from the opposite side starting to come forward. It's just how it's captured is just a little bit unnerving, and yeah, it's so it felt kind of real in some ways, and it definitely did a great job trying to present what they were going for. And yeah, the last few moments of the movie, actually the last couple shots of the movie definitely left an impact, and wasn't very happy, that's for sure. Um, but it's I think I don't know exactly where you can find it. Again, I was thankful enough for it to have a nearby movie theater playing it. I think I did see that this is going to be playing at some Regal theaters. So if you have a Regal movie theater near you, um, it might be playing sometime this month. So, and I think it's worth a look into that if you have an interest in watching older movies like this. But yeah, I'm glad I checked this one out. It definitely left an impact. And so yeah, those are my thoughts on that. The next one is Jeremiah Johnson. I have a local movie theater that was doing a festival, and they played this movie in connection with Robert Redford. And um, so Jeremiah Johnson, basically about the man who basically went into the decided to live in the mountains, and basically his experiences there, and the connections he makes and all that. So um, I knew about the premise about Jeremiah Johnson living in the mountains, and that's all I really knew. I didn't know how this movie was going to unfold and all that. And it's definitely a slower paced movie, that's for sure. It definitely takes its time, and it allows itself to build in certain sequences to where he learns certain things, and how he connects with certain people, and things like that. Um, and having that experience in the movie theater was definitely great. And again, this is not a movie I've ever seen before, so I I only knew about it from maybe a couple clips, and the very famous meme of Jeremiah Johnson turn looking back and nodding. You probably know which one I'm talking about, but if you don't, I'm pretty sure you might see it at some point if you haven't. Um, Something that was actually quite cool with this, though, was it did feature an intermission, um, which the intermission was pretty quick. It was just like it just showed intermission and then just went to the next part. Um, I've only ever had one movie where they had the intermission and they basically um, turned the lights on for 10 minutes. This is not what they did here. So, but it was kind of cool to have it, just to have them list the intermission. Um, but yeah, the music was pretty simple, but it sounded really good in the theater. The cinematography was gorgeous. There were some really gorgeous shots throughout the movie, and of landscapes to focusing on characters and their interactions and everything, and all that. And they so it definitely the cinematography is really good, and all like the production design, which again a lot of it was probably more location scouting, but there was a sense of like them trying to build like certain log houses and all that, and those are definitely well established for the time period they were presenting. So, yeah, this was one I'm grateful I got to go check out. And um, if you're one of those that this sounds like a movie that interests you and is curious of checking it out, then I do recommend going to check this one out. So, uh, the next one, the most recent one I saw in theaters was Hoppers. This is the new Pixar movie. I think the best things I'm going to give you without giving too much away. It's about a girl, college girl, who who's basically trying to protect this land, um, and she ends up connecting with the with this like science class teachers who basically invented a technology where they're able to put their minds into the body of these robotic animals and basically impersonate as animals. I think if you've seen the trailer, you know, yeah, pretty much that fits that and kind of get an idea of where things may go. But um, just in case you don't know where things go, that's where I'm going to leave that whole premise at. And this was, I experienced this movie in Cinemark XD. So, and I was laughing my head throughout the entire movie. And there was definitely like there was definitely a lot of great moments that were totally wacky and all that. And yeah, it was definitely I I I had a total blast watching it. I think the characters were a lot of fun. Um, yeah, is this one of Pixar's top five ever? I wouldn't say so, but this is definitely one of Pixar's finest in the last like 6 to 7 years. I think that's a fair assessment to give. It's very grateful when they do original movies. Again, like there are certain sequels that Pixar does that are actually fun to watch, um, but I really like it when they try to experiment and do um, newer movies, even if some of these movies don't always work the way they hoped. This one I felt like did. Um, Again, the it has like a good emotional core of why this whole place is important and the main character, what the motives are, and all that. Um, and is definitely well, like I think they did a good job with that, and that good idea of like just trying to protect the environment, but also try to connect with others. And yeah, the presentation in Cinemark XD, like I was pretty much um, a few rows away from the front, and I definitely felt the scope of the picture, and it was cool. And again, you don't have to sit that close. It's definitely like, but I think the sound mix is very good and everything, and um, and the picture quality looked great. And the animation was actually really good and well presented. The choices they made um, to tell this story were very good. So, yeah, I do recommend this, especially if you have a young family that you're looking to take your family to a movie that could be fun. I think, like, honest, I think anyone, like, I mean, yeah, maybe more of the kids might get more of the laughs, but at the same time, I think this is one that I think I went in just totally just had a blast and laughed at all the absurdity that happens or the insanity at certain moments that happen. And there's certain moments during the third act that happen that like I completely just like continued to laugh and lost it at certain moments. So yeah, I think it's one like, hey, if this is a movie that interested you, or if you're looking for a movie to take your family to, I do recommend checking this one out. Okay, next I'm going to move to some of the movies that I watched in my home theater. One of the first ones, and I think all three of these I have written and post it on my Facebook page. So you can also read some of my thoughts, because I might keep some of my thoughts a little bit short here. But anyway, the first one I'm going to go through is Nathan Hayes. This was a movie released in 1983. I picked it up um, at a 50% off Kino Lorber sale at Barnes and Nobles. It looked kind of interesting, and I'm like, hey, why not? So it was on Blu-ray. So I watched it on Blu-ray, and it was a fun movie. That's how I would describe it. Like nothing too expansive. Very like a quick, like basically 90 to 100 minutes. So hour 30, hour 40 minute movie. So um, basically I think like the production design, I think did a really good job in trying to bring you into the world. Good use of cinematography, just to help capture those moments, and the characters are fun. This does have Tommy Lee Jones as the main pirate guy, and he was definitely like I think you see Tommy Lee Jones is basically one type of person he plays a lot of the time. Sometimes he'll do little varieties within that range. Um, but I feel like this is more lighthearted, is how I would describe it. This is not the same lightheartedness as something like Batman Forever, where he played Harvey Two Face. Um, that's probably the most I've ever seen him go wacky. All the other ones he's usually reserved. This is probably one of those obviously I'm not showing a visual how I look, but between Harvey Dent being Harvey Two Face being like 80 to maybe him the rest of him being more between like the personality like more reserved at like 20 to 30. I would say this is probably more like 35 maybe. Still within reserved, but still shows enough lightheartedness. Anyway, there were some good fight sequences, some cool like production design, as I said, um, in the later part when they get to certain places, to other islands. So again, it was a quick adventure movie that I got a good enough enjoyment out of. It's one of those that I couldn't really find a good trailer. I found like one TV spot, which I think gave a good enough vibe of what to expect. Not again, nothing something you would take serious. Like it's something really quick. I like it's one of those. If this looks like some sounds like you're looking for a good pirate adventure, fun pirate adventure movie that is very quick, that you're not really gonna think too seriously about. Actually, you're not gonna think seriously about it at all. Um, I think it's worth a look at. This next one, Seven Samurai. This is the 1954 Akira Kurosawa movie, film directed by Akira Kurosawa. So you've probably heard about all the different variations. The Magnificent Seven. Um, and yeah, there's other storytellings where it kind of borrows a lot of these themes and all that. The ones that I've seen, actually, I'm pretty sure I've seen more, but the ones that stick out immediately: A Bug's Life from 1998, um, 2006, 2016's The Magnificent Seven. This is the remake of the movie back from the 50s, I believe, or 60. I think it was 60s. I'm sorry. I think The Magnificent Seven was made in the 60s. Um, but this 2016 is the remake with Denzel Washington, which I did talk about in one of my previous episodes. Um, and So yeah, that's one of those. And another one that comes to mind is actually one that was released in 2004. It's not a film, but it's an anime that was 26 episodes long. Um, and that's the one that I kind of used as my guide when watching this movie. which again, I experienced this movie in my dedicated home theater. It's a Blu-ray from the Criterion Collection. There is a 4K Ultra HD version out there from Criterion. I currently don't have it at this time, but I might get it in the future. Anyway, but while experiencing this in my dedicated home theater, I kind of used the Samurai 7 anime from 2004 as my guide of who the main samurai characters are, and maybe a couple of the peasant characters. Um, there's a lot of as I found out from watching this, there was definitely a lot of changes um, from the film for this anime adaptation. But knowing who the main characters are and a good idea of what their traits are for the most part, one of them does have significant changes in the anime adaptation from the film. But but I'm not going to do a compare and contrast at this time on all that. But I am going to talk about this film, and this film is great. No, this I'm sorry, this film is excellent. It is definitely like I understood why this was a classic. Um, it is one of those. It is a 3.5 hour long movie. It definitely takes its time. Takes its time to develop to for you to get to know who the characters are and introduce each character and and how it's all done is great. And even when they get into like when the seven samurai are gathered and brought into the village to protect, and how they take time to set things up, and even how some of the sequences are paced out. Some of like the battle sequences are paced out, were definitely great. The cinematography was great. How it's shot, and so and again, this was not shot in like widescreen that you see today. This was shot in like 1.33 or 1.37, and so it's definitely because that's how film in the early days were presented, and so and it definitely does a great job at presenting all the shots, feeling the scope on certain things, um, and yeah, just some of the production, like a lot, the production design is great, and the fight sequences are great, and even if there are certain limitations, like the music, um, did feel like a little bit older, a little bit, but it still sounded great, and even certain moments where it's well utilized, and the limitations of the time period are very well utilized to get the best of the masterful story that we got here. And it's like, yeah, this was an excellent film. This is one that I, for especially for those that are looking to explore classic films like this, I do strongly encourage checking this one out. Um, in the Blu-ray that I watched it on, it was definitely I think remastered in high definition. So this was released in like the Blu-ray was released in 2010, and like I could tell in the film print that there were scratches on it here and there, but it still looked really good. Definitely still looked very presentable, and the sound still sounded really good. And again, it still brought up the scope of like experience my dedicated home theater. I still could feel some of the scope on some of the shots, and I think like it was definitely like a very well told story. So again, I strongly encourage checking this one out. The next one I'm going to talk about is Star Wars Return of the Jedi. Um, you probably, if you've listened to my earlier episodes, you've known that I've talked about Star Wars A New Hope and Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back. And so I wanted to cap off this trilogy and watch Star Wars Return of the Jedi. And so um, I've experienced this movie in theaters a couple of times. Um, One of them was back in 1997 during the 20th anniversary of the original Star Wars, and when they released the whole trilogy, and they added new stuff. So it was the special edition when it was indeed a special edition. Before we realized that, yeah, until they realized that that's kind of how it is now, right now. Hopefully, actually, I do know that they're re-releasing the original Star Wars next year, um, in the way it's originally presented back in 1977, which will be exciting. But anyway, so that will be a true special edition anyway. Sorry, I'm rambling off on that part. Um, so I went on a tangent. I'm sorry about that. And so that was my first time experiencing it in theaters. I mean, of course, I watched it quite a bit as a kid before seeing it in theaters, and then getting to I got to experience it again in 2023 for the 40th anniversary release, which I went to a premium movie theater nearby, and it was great. Anyway, um, this is a great movie. I I mean, again, my ranking, this may not be the highest of the original trilogy, obviously, but still, this still doesn't take away from this is a movie worth watching. Um, and rewatching it again, I'm in it. I watched it in my dedicated home theater. The picture quality looked good, but the sound quality sounded really good as well. And overall, the combination of just that experience, I declared it. If you read my thoughts on my Facebook page, you saw that I declared it a great home theater experience. And there were, it wasn't, the picture wasn't perfect. There were some mild issues here and there, but it still looked good, and it still sounded really good. Um, and Still, the big high, one of the things that I felt very immersed in was the bike chase during the middle of the movie when they get on Endor, and that sounded very immersive and everything. How it was just how all the channels were utilized to help place you into those experiences, and also even some of the battles just felt quite immersive near the end of the movie. Um, Overall, again, obviously that's the one part of the experience. The home theater experience is definitely worth it if you have it on. If you, I don't know how it is to obtain a 4K copy, but if you're able to, it's. I think if you're a big Star Wars fan, it's worth checking out in a good home theater setup. Um, but yeah, overall, I really like the movie. The creature design and the visual effects, especially when mainly when it's practical, is definitely great. It's definitely very impressive how they were able to capture all that, and also just going to all these worlds is always great. I have no problem. I'm gonna just admit it. I really do. Especially as a kid, I really liked when we went to the forest moon of Endor. It's always a cool place to check out. Um, it was always a fun place to explore in the movie. And again, it's yeah, again the visual effects, especially in the battle sequences at the end, are always cool. And and again, I like the story overall, like the main whole crux of the story, which is basically um, about Luke Skywalker trying to bring back his father from the dark side, bring him back to the good side, recognizing the goodness that is still in him, even when he himself, Darth Vader himself, didn't always believe it. So again, it's you haven't seen it in a while, I do recommend checking it out again. Um, this last one I'm going to talk about is called Westworld. This is I know there's a series I believe on that's on streaming. I don't know if it's still on there, but the movie I'm focusing on, the 1973 movie. This is directed by Michael Crichton. This is the same author. So this is the same author that wrote Jurassic Park, the novel Jurassic Park, which later got adapted and turned into a movie. But before that happened, he made this movie called Westworld. So basically, this movie's about this theme park, basically where the patrons can go and go to three different sections of this park. One of them is one of them is called Westworld, which is going back to the late 1800s to the Wild West, and being part of that world. And so they get to play various roles however they see it and live in this world as it was during that time. And they have this world. They these engineers basically develop robots to play various roles. One of these roles is basically like a think I'm hoping I'm saying the right word right, but a gunslinger. So and they would battle this person and other things would go on. So like a lot of these ones would play various roles. Obviously something happens during the latter half of the movie. You see some things start to happen near the beginning, but more of the second half is when things start to be take place on when you realize, yeah, something bad obviously happens. I won't go into to what it is. Um, in case you haven't seen, you do have an interest in checking this one out. And so basically, um, uh, and got good performances. Um, the production design is actually pretty cool. Um, I feel like it feels somewhat simplified in certain ways. If hopefully that word that I use is accurate. Um, when I mean simplified in a sense, like no, there's definitely a lot of like it's mainly you're looking at the town, maybe one part of the outer area, and probably a couple of the buildings in the western town, and there's a couple of other places that are designed as well. Think about it like this kind of feels pretty close to like when you go to some theme parks today, how they have certain sections and maybe not all of it. So the production design is very well thought out and very fits well. I mean, it's not like a big Western like something like The Searchers or Silverado. I think that's what I'm more going for when I say simplified to a point. But it's definitely well designed and like, yeah. And even you get to see the building where a lot of this engineering takes place and how it all happens is definitely like, it's definitely well established. And where we go to later parts is definitely like, yeah, and definitely do a great job of capturing this stuff on film and as well as presenting it in the theater. I watched this in my dedicated home theater. I picked it up on 4K Ultra HD from Arrow Video. And yeah, I would say if you're a fan of this movie, the picture quality in the audio looked and sounded really good. Like the colors and the the details and all that looked really good. I mean, yeah, there's certain moments where I would think it would have been more of just the source of the material if there were any limitations, but it looked really good overall. And I went for DTS HD 5, yeah, DTS HD 5.1 for experiencing the sound of the movie, and it sounded very good. Like it definitely had its impact in certain moments, but obviously it's not like they modernize it at all. It feels very true to the time period of when it was released. And it was definitely very well presented. It definitely helped take you into each of these experiences. And so, yeah, this is one that I think this is worth checking out. If you've seen the trailer and it looks like it interests you, I'd say give it a shot. It's definitely, I definitely thought it was a very interesting, a definitely good movie actually, and definitely did really good at presenting. And I think the director Michael Crichton as a director for this, I think he did a very good job here. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do is the question of the day. Hopefully, I got the question right. This was written in, and the question of the day was: if a time traveler came to my time, what movie would I want to show this traveler? Um, I apologize if I left out any details, but that's a good question, actually. And I think I look on it different ways. Like, I think I would pick more of like me. Would I pick on something that would feel more timeless, that, or even just something that might fit our time period, or even just something that might be a classic for our time period. And oh man, yeah, I read it and I wrote it down. I had time to maybe think about aspects, and that was one part. Um, I feel like I'd always start with like maybe a few of my favorite ones and use those. Um, but I feel like one of the ones I definitely would want to use is like the Lord of the Rings trilogy, because I think if anything that I think would describe like the incredible achievement of filmmaking altogether, I just how it's presented, like I still have grand memories of experiencing each of those movies in theaters when they first came out. And those were like very treasured moments from just even seeing them like either with fan like yeah, I saw I think at least a couple of them in theaters on my own, but also going with my family. Like I went with different family members each time when I saw the first one, and to all of us kind of going for the second one, and then all of us going to the third one during the opening day for that night of the opening day. So there's just a lot of fond memories of experiencing each of those movies. I feel like it's got a great story and all that. I think if I were to choose anything, maybe the Lord of the Rings trilogy is something I think I would start with. And I could give a huge list on which ones I would focus on next. And there's definitely quite a few classic movies that I have not watched that I still intend to, but and I will definitely be sharing my thoughts when I do for sure. Um, but I think I would start. I would think that would probably be one of my starting points. But it is a very lengthy, like the Lord of the Rings trilogy is one whole story split into three parts. If I were to focus on something maybe just a little more simplified, I would maybe, again, a lot of it goes back to how these are presented as well, because just showing like 2001 A Space Odyssey on a normal TV doesn't always cut it. Showing it like in a dedicated home theater, like which I'll definitely share my thoughts when I do watch my dedicated home theater, but I have experienced that movie in theaters, and it's definitely a great movie going experience, that's for sure. But that, like, if I have a way to present these movies in a particular way, like if I were to be like, hey, I'm gonna rent out, like, yeah, let's rent out this movie theater and let's watch 2001 A Space Odyssey, that's probably one way, but that might be a little bit dense. If I go for something a little bit simplified that has just like a good moral and all that, is 12 Angry Men, which again, simplified story, um, just a really good movie altogether. Um, but I feel like I'd go back to the Lord of the Rings trilogy or even the first Star Wars movie, because again, that one kind of has a good, it's still a great like theater going experience as well and everything. And it still has a great story to this day, and one that I feel has that sense of timeless, even if it takes place in the, like it takes place in a galaxy far, far away with like futuristic technology, but kind of retro stuff and all that. Just how it's designed and all that. Yeah, there's a lot of ways I can go with this, and this was a great question. If I feel like I can refine this answer in the future, I definitely will. But thank you for submitting this in. Yeah, thank you again for tuning into Movie Theaters Explore. I'll we'll call it good here. Again, if you liked what you listened to, please subscribe. Um, and but regardless, thank you for just tuning in for this little bit and listening. Even if you only listen to a few of my reviews here and all that, I just appreciate your time and for checking this out. And again, this is Movie Theater Explorer signing off. Brent, Movie Theater Explorer, signing off.